Alrighty. So, hello everybody. I am just gonna crack on and get on with this. Cool beans. So let's just get on with it. So as you can see, I am just doodling away. And I'm just basically practicing, gonna see what happens. I know that I don't normally do that on this channel, but I thought, you know what? Been a while since I did any kind of live stream on this channel, so what I'm gonna do, kind of got a loose idea of what I'm gonna draw, but these things never pan out. So obviously using the quote-unquote Loomis method for drawing head, and I've already screwed up. So what I'm going to do is Control Z, 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 all that. Supposed to do this on a new layer, and I didn't because I'm a fool. Okay, it's not a problem. It's not the end of the world. Okay, try that again. Okay, now we're on a separate layer, so we should be good to go. So like I said before, using the Loomis method for laying out my head, so this is going to be where the hairline is, just kind of there, halfway. That's going to be where eyebrow line is, and this is going to be where the nose line is, and then assuming that the person I'm drawing has a generic shaped head, this will be where the chin goes. So this person has kind of a we just drop the size of the opacity of this layer down and start drawing over the top of it a little bit. So the ears of a generic human tends to go kind of in that area. I'm not really too bothered about making them look super realistic at the moment because the tops of the ears of this character is going to be covered up with hair, I think. So I'm just kind of putting them in so that I can get a feel for where the rest of things are. And she's going to have a fairly square jawline. I think her jawline is going to be slightly smaller than average. Kind of in that vicinity, and then I'm just going to very gently on the layer below bring in center line just to give me an indication of where things need to be. Cool beans. Okay, so that's the rough shape of the head. I'm just going to draw a little bit of an indication there as to where the neck is going to be. Might be a bit wide, I might change that afterwards, but this is good so far. Okay, so the hairline's going to be here, and going to be a piece of, there's going to be some hair that's kind of sweeping up and over on that side. On this side it's going to come down. There's still going to be hair over the ears, but it's going to be more of a generic sort of hairline on that side, like so. And I might have drawn this too narrow thinking about it. It does look a little bit too narrow. So what I think I'll do is I will I'm just gonna very quickly draw in a couple of markers there just to give me an indication of where the key points in the face are now, so that I can adjust this and not worry too much about whether the sketch layer below it is actually lined up or not. So I can just do a Control T, hold down the Shift key. No, don't hold down the Shift key in this case, and I'm just going to widen it up a smidge. I think that looks Probably a bit too wide. I've gone a bit too far in the other direction now. I think that's probably a good happy medium. That'll work. Okay, so I'm just going to reinforce that line, and then I can scrub out the tops of the ears because I don't need those anymore. And now that I've widened the head up, I think I can adjust that neck a touch. Just narrow it in a little bit more so that it doesn't look too masculine. Okay, cool. Right, let's just... Mouth is going to be roughly at that level, and it's going to go kind of up and over, and then up there, and then there's going to be bottom lip. These are only guides just for the time being. I'm not, these are obviously not the final details. I'm just kind of sketching them in for the time being. So the nose starts there. And I kind of do that. Again, just sketching where the parts are for the time being. Right, so the eyebrow line. Maybe I can come out a little bit further with that, and then that will be there. And then this one is actually going to end behind the hair. So I just need to make sure that they start at more or less the same level, that there's no asymmetry there. So yeah, that looks okay. And again, these are just guides. This is just another layer of sketch on top of the previous layer of sketch, and which is going to be on top of probably another layer of sketch. And it's basically just, this is all about practice. All about practice. Okay, and then going to be a little bit of that going on in there. Actually going to come out at a slightly steeper angle there, and that's going to come down a bit lower. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, just bring that out on a slightly steeper angle. Super duper! Okay, and then I'm just going to very loosely, the eyes need to stop there and kind of start there, so I don't want to go too mad on these details right now, because as I get in closer I can start putting them in a little bit better. I just want to rough them in for now. Obviously make sure that when I do the final drawing, the final bit of sketching, that they're not different shapes. That will be a good start. So I'm just going to again bring in that neck, and then, I don't know, end it with just some kind of collar. I'm really only focusing on the head for this particular drawing. And then probably somewhere up there going to be the top. Remembering that the top of the head is kind of, it's not really spherical, but it sort of has, that's the closest you're going to get to in terms of shapes. And then I'm just going to draw the rough, some rough details, and not going to go mad on the hair, because as you've probably seen from any of you that have seen my other drawings, hair is definitely my Achilles heel when it comes to drawing. And then it just, we're not going to go too much lower than that, because I'm not going to draw the rest of the body and whatnot, so that's fine on that side. And then on this side it's going to come actually dead close into the head at that point, kind of there perhaps, and then a little bit's going to swoop out, but the majority of it is going to be quite close in, somewhere around there anyway. It's early it's very early on in the drawing, so I'm going to bring that in and then add another layer of sketch on top. And just basically every layer I draw, I'm just trying to add a little bit more detail than the layer previous to it, and then I can correct any things that I don't like. For example, her jawline is wonky, So I'm actually going to draw a very light line across where I actually want the jaw lines to match up, and make sure that they're roughly at the same angle. And I think that's too shallow. That's my problem. It's a bit too not feminine. I think the transition needs to be closer to there, perhaps. And then again, it's not transitioning to completely vertical, it's just kind of tilting outwards towards the ears, maybe curving in ever so slightly, but and then from there we go up into the hairline like that, and then we can have our ears just coming out like that. Marvelous. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to kind of look at putting more detail into the mouth area now. So I'm going to bring the size of my brush down. I'm sticking with the center line, so I have a habit, a nasty habit I've developed of over-exaggerating the curve of the inside of the mouth, because there is one, without doubt, but I don't want to go too mad with it. And then the shape of the bottom lip is always, this is always a tricky one, because your eyes tell you one thing and your brain tells you something else. Because your brain's telling you that it should be round and that it should be fully joined at the middle of the mouth. You know, this curve, your brain's telling you that that the lips don't have a gap in them, but when you're drawing them, I think it's not quite as cut and dried as that. So mainly just trying to get the transition into the upward sweep roughly at the same place. Perhaps need to extend that out slightly. And this can be a nice bold line, and then there's obviously a sort of a cut off in the shadow underneath it where the shadow of the sort of the chin, between the chin and the lip is. And then the actual line itself, sorry, I just dropped my pencil. The line itself tapers off as it gets in that area. There we go. And then the top lip, again, always a tricky one with the eyes. Your eyes tends to trick you and make you feel like the top lip is meant to be thicker than it really is. I mean, I think I've already overdone it on the thickness there, but the transition into the downward slope should be about there. And then if you are going to draw the full line, again, it's just a case of being careful you don't overdo it. Because your eye picks up really, really subtle curves. The subtlest of curves that can be seen by your eyes. It's a trick to get it to actually look right, because what your eye is telling you is that this line curves up a little bit. But if you actually draw that, it looks really weird. So you have to make it really subtle. Or just not draw it at all, which I think is the way I'm going to go. Okay. Now the nose. In this case, I think I've drawn the nose way too high up, so I'm going to fix that now. And then if I need to move it later, I will, because I think the nose is going to start about here instead. Although, maybe I've just drawn the mouth too low down. Let's have a look at it from a distance. Yeah, I think I need to move the mouth up. And I need to fix this jawline again. I think I have overcooked it. I think the jawline finishes about there. Perhaps. And then goes up more like that, maybe. And then I think I need to just move the mouth up and make it bigger slightly. So let's do that. Just going to grab that. Control T. Okay. Or get rid of that for a sec. Right. Okay. Definitely need to sort this jawline out because it's going to be the bane of my existence. There's always one little detail that I overfixate on, but this is kind of an important detail, so I don't want to stuff it up. I think the jaw does actually come out at more of a jutting angle like that and transition into the jawline there. I just think that this is one of those characters. It's based on a TV personality, as most of my characters are. But she has actually quite a snatched jawline. But she looks feminine in spite of how broad her jaw is. Kind of like, for example, if you look at Angelina Jolie, she's got a really square jawline, but it doesn't make her look any less feminine. So I'm kind of happier with that. I think the mouth and the jawline are intersecting at a more sensible place now. So perhaps the nose isn't in too bad of a position after all, now that I've moved the mouth. So let's just get right in close to the action. I'm just going to do a really basic cartoony nose here because they are challenged to draw at the best of times, but it's one of those details where actually minimalist noses generally look a lot better. I'm just going to that, and then the actual nostril sort of outside. I'm just going to kind of indicate at them. Maybe a little bit of asymmetry is fine, and then I can tweak that if I need to. I think maybe, yeah, I think I can get away with that. Let's have a zoom out and see how it looks. That's fine. And then what I think I'll do is I'm actually going to draw a... Actually, I don't usually draw in the shading like this, but I think I'm actually going to here. So a bit of shading that comes up like that, and then on this side, going to be similar, not quite as strong. Something like that, perhaps. And then I can just into that hairline again. Remember, this is we're still sketching here, so I'm just trying to get things roughly where I want them to be. I'm actually not going to bother doing the sketch of the hair again. I'm going to just kind of leave that on that layer below for now. I actually think I've done the neck too narrow. Incredibly. I think the neck needs to come out from about there. That looks better. Hide that layer. Yeah, we're getting there. We are getting there. Okay, so I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna start doing a little bit of scribbly type of shading type stuff here. To try and help my eyes see the shapes. This one is pretty much the same, except maybe she's got a bit of an quizzical eyebrow effect going on. I might have over exaggerated that slightly, so we'll just bring that in a smidge. Okie doke. At those cheekbones again, so I don't forget where they are. How could I possibly forget where the cheekbones are? I hear you cry. So last detail for this layer, I'm just going to give the eyes a bit more of a shape. So I'm just going to concentrate on the bits of the eyes that we can actually see of the eyeballs first. And then there's a bit of a kind of a hint at an eye bag there, perhaps. And then something like that, perhaps, and bring that over the top. I'm going to shade that in just so I can actually identify which bit's the eyeball and which bits are the eyelashes. The eyelashes, I'm actually going to have a little bit of a gap in that area. And make the eyelashes get a bit shorter as they get up this way. Okay, and then the pupil and the iris. I'm going to come quite close to that edge, I reckon. And not forgetting that every eye has that kind of motif going on. And then a few eyelashes just doing their thing up top there. Maybe just to exaggerate that curve a little bit more. Makes the eye look a little bit rounder. See how that looks from a distance. Is it big enough? That is the question. That might be a tad too small. Only a fraction, but a fraction makes all the difference. Let's bring that way. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Sweet. Okay, how are we doing for time? 25 minutes. 25 minutes in. Cool. We're doing fine. 25 minutes in, and I'm getting on with my third sketch layer. I don't know if this is going to look like the person I'm intending it to look like or not. Hence, probably the reason why I haven't said who I'm trying to make it look like. I'm just kind of going with the flow. And if it doesn't look like that person, it's fine. It's just a practice drawing. All right, second eye. Make sure I've got my brush tool selected. And then pretty much now, there is a little thing that people will do. And it's bad. and this has come from hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of watching tutorials, there are some art channels out there who will tell you to mirror the eyes from one side to the other. So just copy the eye, flip it horizontally, paste it. Don't do that. Essentially, aside from the fact that it's not an awful lot quicker than just doing it properly. So this one's got kind of more of an almond shape when it gets out to there. And it's really a design choice, obviously, but if you make the eyes identical on both sides, you kind of, it's hard to add any character to the person that you're drawing. I know for a fact that I've made this eye too small already, but I can fix that in a moment. I'm just getting the shapes in. Add some thickness to that. Top eyelashes there, and again, this is just a rough sketch layer, so it hasn't got to look great. It's not inking. Add a bit of a curve onto that one, and then these kind of come down and stop around about there, I reckon. Actually, I'm going to add a bit of thickness to the whole of this top eyelid. And then, no, that's a bad curve. That's a bad curve. Let's try that again. So we come up a bit there, over a bit there. Nope. Up a bit there, over a bit there, and then down like that. Again, just sketching, but I'd like the shapes to be kind of close. And then the same with the previous eye. One's going to have a hint at an eye bag. Kind of there. To which many of the bottom eyelashes will extend. Top eyelashes, not so much. They're just going to be very small, few and far between. Okay, so looking at the size of this, I use my highly accurate measuring finger. I'm going to go from about there to about there, but I'm going to make this eye slightly larger, so I'm actually going to bring this in to about there. Again, don't want to make this pupil too large because I'm going to increase the size of the eye. Right, I'm going to grab it. Control T. Now, I am going to do a little bit of cheating here. What I'm actually going to do is drag it over onto this eye and see how close we are in terms of the height of the eye. We're pretty close already. It's just that this eye, I think, is too close to the nose. I'm just going to bend this by just a few mil. Drop it there. Hide this layer below it. And then zoom out and see what we've got. With a Control D. Okay, so what this is telling me is that eye was in probably a better position than it is now. So I will Control Z that and move it. Come on, grab it, you son of a gun. Right, that's probably better. Do that. Let's move my brush out of the way. Right, so that's that eye in a slightly better position. I actually want to bring the sweep of that hair in so that actually kind of does more of that. Like so, and then that just means getting my erase tool and trimming off the stuff I don't want. Rid of those faint marker lines that I added. There. think I need to sort of round off this hairline a little bit more. I think my hairline was a bit too masculine, so we'll just round that off and get rid of this junk going on here. And I think I've made her forehead a bit too big. I think her forehead is going to be more close to this kind of size. Maybe. Or maybe I'm kind of need to split the difference. Maybe if I go there. That looks better. Okay, get rid of this junk. And this junk. Bit better. And I think I've gone a bit too shallow with that curve there, so I'm just going to get that over there. Alright, that'll work. That'll work. I assume nobody's chatting because I can't see any chat in the window, but I am using OBS and it is sporadic, to say the least. Okay, so how are my eyes doing in terms of... Are they too small? Hard to say. Hard to say. Well, I've committed to this now, so I'm going to go with it. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm still not happy with my jawline. I still feel like that needs to come out a little bit more and needs to be a sharp transition. So I'm just going to draw it in on one side and see if I prefer it. So similar angle, but transitions a little bit further out. To be honest, it's a really subtle difference, but to me, it is a yawning chasm. Okay, so transition is going to be around about there. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It'll do. It'll do. All right, let's get some hints of some shadows going on. This one is pretty much just going to be almost all of her neck under her chin is going to be in shadow. Slight hint of a sternocleidomastoid is what that muscle there in the neck is called. A little hint of that there. Okay, and then there's going to be a shadow behind her ears, like so. And this one, obviously bearing in mind that the shadow is on the hair, so there's going to be an element of jaggedness to it. And that's all just going to be in shadow, that bit. Okay. Do another layer on top of this one then, and bring the opacity of this layer down. Right, do I want to do this cartoon style, comic book style rather, or do I want to paint it? I'm going to stick with comic book style because I haven't done any comic book practice for what feels like ages. Probably only been a few days, but I've been doing loads of digital painting recently and thoroughly enjoying it, of course, but problem with inking that I have, aside from the fact that drawing on the wrong layer, is that my lines are always like really wobbly where I'm supposed to be drawing a straight line, which with a confident line, you know, looks kind of confident straight line, whereas because I take my time, my straight lines end up looking like that, which is obviously not conducive to inking, but apparently it'll come with practice. So we'll see, I guess. Okay, so trying not to do too many chicken scratch lines now. Just trying to make my lines as continuous as possible. There you go, there's one of those wobbly lines I was telling you about. Good enough. Don't know why I bothered drawing that line in, because this is doing that, considering the whole that side of the neck is going to be in shadow, but there you go. So bring this out. And that one. A little hint of those cheekbones. Cheekbone magazine. Okay, now see if I can get this right without screwing it up. That goes swooping up. I've done worse, I have to say. I think I'm going to do a little bit of cross-hatching in there. As in the comic book style. Okay, so the top lip I'm not actually going to draw with lines, that's going to be done with colouring only. So the next line I need to draw is going to be this bad boy ear, and its equivalent on the other side. No, completely fluffed that up. I mean, it hasn't got to be a continuous line, but at least needs to be vaguely the same shape as the one on the other side, and vaguely the same size. That's better. There we go. Yeah, well, that going quiet there was me concentrating for a little bit too hard. Okay, so I'm actually going to come in with a slightly lighter grey just for this highlight shadowy type thing I've got going on here. And then that's going to do that. That one's going to do that. I'm going to have a hint of this line on that side. And then that one's going to do that. Sweet. Okie dokie. Now for the bit that always takes the longest, the eyes. In fact, do you know what? I'm going to do the eyebrows first. Mainly because it's quick win. Sometimes when you're doing these drawings, in my humble experience, you need to just do something that's dead easy to look okay, just to kind of keep the momentum up a little bit, like drawing stamina. I don't know if that's a thing or whatever, but like I find if I'm drawing for a long period of time, like one of these drawings generally takes me about an hour and a half. And if I'm doing one of these like towards the end, I really start flagging, I'm losing interest, I'm getting fed up because keep having to start again because I'm still not good enough at the moment to be able to continuously draw without having to erase lines and stuff all the time. But I find drawing something that doesn't take an awful lot of energy or a lot of effort to get it looking vaguely right, it's kind of like a little win that gives your brain that bit of a morale boost. However, you might completely disagree with me. You might look at that eyebrow and go, oh, that's dog crap. It's entirely your prerogative. But realistically, given that I'm practicing, and I'm practicing for myself, the only person I really need to be happy with the quality of that eyebrow is myself. And if you don't like that, there are plenty of other channels for you to go and watch. You don't have to stare at me. I'm going to go past the hair point just because I'm going to draw the hair over the top of the face anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so this left eyebrow looks way too bushy compared to the right, so I'm actually going to trim a bit off. How does that look? Getting there. Getting there. I think I actually need to do a bit of an erase pass on the top of this eyebrow as well, because in comic books they don't have quite that much detail, so I'm just going to add a bit more thickness. And then combat it with... Oops, I'm a bit crazy there. Just to sort of like tidy up that line a bit. Yeah, that looks fine. It's fine. Okay. Now for the dreaded eyes. I'm going to actually start a new layer for these just because I have a sneaky suspicion I'm going to have to keep redrawing them. That's what you might call pessimism. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this all in one continuous line. I am not that good yet, so... Chicken scratch it will be. But the beauty of using Photoshop is, if I do use a bit of chicken scratch, I can just come in afterwards with my erase tool and smooth it out. Sharpen up those edges. But I actually kind of don't mind the chicken scratch on things like eyelashes, because you're never going to capture all the detail in eyelashes anyway. Not unless you go down to like 32K image or something crazy like that. So having these little jagged lines and stuff, I think, is actually a kind of unique and useful little touch. Okay, so that line is probably a little bit too thick, but screw it, we're here now. Done. And this is a comic book drawing, so there does need to be a little bit of hard edge to most of the stuff that we draw. That's the edge of the eye. That was way too thick. Fine, and then I might as well just go and draw the entirety of the pupil in, since we're sort of inking now. I think that's too small, but I think that is more appropriate size. She'll do. It'll do. Right. Okay. Other eyeball. The left eyes are always the ones that I struggle with more, because on the right hand side of the page I'm drawing with my hand under the pen. On the left hand side of the page I'm drawing with my hand over the pen. It's a bit backwards, so what I could do, if I had any common sense, is do that. That's what we call problem solving on the fly. Gone quiet again. Must be concentrating. You bet your bottom dollar. Okay. Again, I don't mind those kind of scratchy lines on the back of that eyelash. I think that adds a little bit of extra dynamic. And let's call that, in true Bob Ross fashion, we'll call that a happy accident. No, I don't like that. I think the swooping line was better. Well, I could make it swoop a little bit more. I think I'll do that by bringing that in there and there. That works better, and then I can add a little bit more length. That one. And that detail I said I liked, I'll get rid of it completely. Alright, okay. I tried doing it properly, but unfortunately overhand is going to have to be it. Oh, no, that's wobbly, that's going to stare out. Nope, that's also going to stand out like a mile. Try going the other way. Hey! Okay, and now let's hide it completely by drawing eyelashes going to it. Again, if you are chatting, if I've even got, I can't even see, because I'm using OBS, I can't even see if anybody's watching, to be honest. So, if you are chatting and I'm not responding, my humble apologies. Right, that goes way too low. That needs to come up to about there. Sweet. Okay, let's draw in that. Iris and pupil. Right, okay, I'm going to shade. I'm going to draw in some shadows. I'm going to ink in some shadows in the neck area. I know it's not technically inking, but it's the digital equivalent. Why don't you use the fill tool, Matt? Why don't you use the fill tool? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So, because I've got anti-aliasing turned on, if you use the fill tool, you end up with white gaps around the edge that you've filled that you end up having to go over and draw again anyway. So, if I'm going to have to go over it all again anyway, I might as well just do it all to start with. If you feel me. If you can smell what I'm cooking, paraphrase. And on this side, we have a little bit of shadow under that ear as well. And I think that's all of the like properly black shadow. I think. Perhaps I can do a better job of indicating those cheekbones. To be honest, so let's just do that on this side, and then on this side I think I'll just leave that little subtle mark there. That kind of works for me. Get rid of that nonsense on that side. I still feel like those eyes are a little bit too small, you know? You know, that's the feeling I'm getting. Maybe the eyebrows as well. I don't feel like they're taking up enough of a proportion of the face. Now, because I'm an idiot and I've done shading on my eyes layer, I'm going to have to cut them out anyway. I'm going to cut out all of that. Control X, Control V, Control T. Line them up. And then do a shift. Gonna make me do them individually, isn't it? Son of a gun. Alright, let's move them into position. Close enough. Okay, this one. This one. Now it's a tricky bit getting them the same friggin' size. In fact, what I'll do, I will put one on top of the other. That looks about right. How does that look? That looks much better to me, so let's get rid of that sketch layer for a sec. Yeah, I'm feeling it now. They look like they're more the right size. Arguably a bit too close together now. I think the one on the... I think they both need to move outwards slightly, particularly the one on the left, but... certainly better. That one. That one. Yeah, much better. Sweet. Okay, let's bring back that sketch layer. Back. So let's do some colouring in on the face. And then maybe I'll leave the rest of this for another day or something. I don't know. We'll see how I feel after I've done some colouring in, because that's going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to go with a... probably that, maybe desaturate that slightly. Thinking out loud, my apologies. Okay, right, so we're going to go down underneath the sketch layer. Drop a big dollop of colour. On all the relevant areas. And then I'll colour over the other crap on top of that layer. I don't want to leave any gaps in this layer. Okay, so what I could do is I could use a dodge and burn layer. Good. But what I think I'll do is I will try just doing a simple paint layer first and see how I get on with that. And this shading will probably come all the way up to the cheekbone and then a little bit further. And I need my hard brush for this bit under the nose. Okay. And I need the hard brush for a shadow that's going to come in there. Like so. And then I think I'm going to need a hard brush. Just this bit. I might have to use a bit of creative blending at the other end. I think it's back to the soft brush now. Let's do some really bad blending. Now, this mostly is coloured, but there's like a very clear light patch just underneath the eyebrow. Almost everyone has it where like the fleshy part above the actual eye itself kind of bulges out underneath the eyebrow. And then a little bit of that. I might need a second colour to do some shading in, I reckon. A slightly more, I suppose, kind of halfway between where I am and where I want to be. More of an orangey sort of colour. Somewhere in that region, I reckon. Super duper. And there's a bit of slightly thicker shading in this colour there.